These darn metal gates are the future of the sport. How do you start on them? I'm not a huge believer in the transition between dirt to these metal gates because I think dirt ends up giving some people an advantage and other people a disadvantage, and it brings a little bit more strategy into the sport. However, on concrete, I don't think concrete should be involved on a starting gate ever. So places like Glen Helen and here at Aztec, I would like to see the transition to the metal gate. Here, we've got the owner of the track, Byron. He's been a close friend of mine for years, but they built this metal gate and they wanted to test it. So I said, hey, I've never hit one, so might as well go WFO and see what I can do. So here, let me just break down a little bit of what I am doing and how I set up, because this is my first time ever starting on one of these things. So you can see that I'm in the engaged position. It's like the attack position for starting on dirt is you want to have your feet in front of the foot peg so that they can kind of hold you there so that your butt doesn't fall backwards. And if you ever see guys that grab their pants or their crotch and they're trying to move up and down, well, what they're doing is they're taking the excess fabric and they're putting their butt cheeks right up against it, so when the bike moves forward, the inertia isn't sliding them backwards because there's no other little fabric there. Like it's an interesting technique, but I can see it as a vet rider that the older I get, the faster I was. I don't really need the minuscule benefits of wearing incredibly tight pants. So I digress. Let's see what happens. I'm going to use pretty much 3/4 throttle with my elbows up, and I'm going to squeeze the bike with my knees. I'm going to start as if this is dirt because I don't know how much traction I'm going to have. I'm just assuming I'm going to have way more traction than what the concrete is going to give me. So I'm going to almost try to get the rear wheel to spin by loading the motorcycle, and we're using the hole shot button here. So you can see right away that I scooted back and I wheelied. So I had to end up pulling in the clutch to get that front wheel to drop down so that I'm not letting go of the throttle, because how do you stop a wheelie? You either pull the clutch in or you let off the throttle. But while racing, it's actually faster to pull the clutch in than it is to let go of the gas. And as soon as I did that, I was able to continue along, get into the rut, and go about my business. And it ended up starting to get a little bit deeper of a rut. You can see how my feet almost started dragging a little bit on the dirt. But what's interesting to point out is it had so much traction that you can see the back end squat, and you can see how I slid back. And what held me forward was basically my ankles or the back of my calves in order to keep that bike from wheeling any further by sliding all the way backwards. So here, we'll watch it one more time in real time, and you can hear what happens. I was on the aggressive map and no traction control. But did you hear how I had to pull in the clutch? So for a first time on the metal gate, I was going, okay, now I need to adjust my expectations. There's way more traction involved on these suckers. So what did I do? I'm not going to change my approach. I'm still going to try to get that rear wheel to spin, but how else can I get that front wheel from not wheeling? Well, I can do it with electronics on the actual bike itself. And how I do that is I went to the least aggressive map, at least on these factory edition Huskies. I went from map 2 to map 1. And then I also went to traction control. So again, I'm not changing up how I'm starting. I'm still up front. I still have my elbows way high. I'm grabbing a handful so that when I twist the throttle, my elbow is not going to drop, and I'm going to still squeeze hard with my knees and have my feet in front of the foot peg so that my calves, I can push against it to try to hold myself up there. The only difference that I'm doing is retarding the motorcycle with timing by putting traction control on and going to the less aggressive map. And it completely stopped the wheelie. Here, that wasn't the best. But notice, again, how far I'm gripping the throttle so that I'm taking a big bite so that when I am fairly half throttle to 3/4 throttle, do you see how my elbow did not drop? That's one of the number one things. My chin is basically on the crossbar and my weight is forward because I don't need to put any more weight on that rear end because of how much traction it has. And I ended up doing one more start from a different angle just so that we can look at it. Before I show you that, small word from our video sponsor, Complete Racing Solutions. If you're limited on time, they have started a new program for you. That's $22 a month or $180 a year. It's called Express Training, where you have performance, nutrition, functional strength, flexibility, mental development, live webinars with Coach. He is my coach for all the Ironman, and I wish I had him when I was racing because I made so many freaking mistakes. This guy helps you stay on target and helps you not overtrain and get tired so that you're actually good on the weekends and you can perform to your best ability. Make sure you check out Complete Racing Solutions. The link is in the description. From this different angle, you can see I'm actually using 2 fingers on the clutch and 1 finger on the front brake. After the start, I revert to my middle finger and just my pointer finger because it's less tension on the forearms when you're squeezing with 1 finger versus 2. I mean, you could just try when you're out there. You can see how much muscles, how much your forearms flex using 2 fingers versus 1. So my coach, Donnie Hansen, always just kind of nailed it home for me as far as, hey, use 1 finger. But on the start, it's more about feel to where you can get away with more fingers. I know there's been guys that use all their fingers for concrete, but you're not going to need that anymore with how much traction these metal gates have. Here, I just want you to notice my finger placement, where my elbows are because I'm taking that big grip, and we can hear the motor because the only thing that I've changed on these last 2 starts is just the timing of the motorcycle, letting the electronics do the majority of the work for me. And if I ever start to wheelie, I can just pull that clutch in just briefly. So I hope this helps you guys with metal gates because, man, they have just as much power as, say, I would want to make a joke about the Stark because those suckers are freaking fast. But till next time, keep it WFO. Make sure you subscribe like so many of you are doing. I appreciate it.